All right, well, my clock says 1:30, so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us today. This is the pre-application meeting for the NIFWIF, or National Fish and Wildlife Foundation INSR, Innovative Nutrient and Sediment Reduction Funding for Conservation Planning, Technical Assistance, and Best Management Practice Design. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the Clean Water Cumberland website that was linked into the request for proposal. And I'm also going to post the link here in the chat. An initial response to questions that we've received is posted to that website. The frequently asked questions will be periodically updated as we receive additional questions, either via email or at today's meeting. And if everybody could, all of the attendees, please drop your name, your organization, and an email address into the chat so we could include you on notifications regarding frequently asked questions or any other elements of the proposal. So I think we'll get started just by brief introductions here with our project planning team. My name is Elizabeth Grant. I'm a planning specialist with Cumberland County Planning Department, and we are one of the internal partners working on the countywide action plan for clean water. Stephanie, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure, I can do unmute. Hi all, I'm Steph Williams with Cumberland County Planning Department, and I manage the county's farmland preservation program.
Dylan?
Dylan Varner. I am the nutrient management specialist for the Conservation District.
And Chad?
Chad Heberlig. I'm the Chesapeake Bay technician for the Cumberland County Conservation District.
Thank you. So we'd like to just provide you some background information on the grant, on the programs that we'll be working on within the grant funding, and also a basic overview of the request for proposal and how we are approaching the scope of work. After we follow with that discussion, we will open it up to questions. So to get started, in 2020, Cumberland County developed a countywide action plan as part of Pennsylvania's Phase 3 Watershed Implementation Plan to chart a course for nitrogen and phosphorus reductions by promoting voluntary action on public and private lands to implement best management practices. This effort is coordinated internally by the Planning Department and Conservation District, and we have consulting support from Herbert, Rowland, and Grubick and Lancaster Farmland Trust. There are also numerous partners working on conservation planning and project implementation throughout the county, and they have been a great assistance to us in this process in identifying project sites, bringing funding and technical resources to the table, and also coordinating volunteers to assist with the work and also promoting awareness about reducing pollution in our local waterways. The plan calls for a multi-sector approach, which includes implementing existing county programs with a focus on enhancing clean water initiatives, achieving new pollutant reductions, and a particular focus on agricultural lands, as well as monitoring results, verifying, conducting education and training, and providing recommendations to state agencies to support data management, legislative, and policy initiatives to facilitate successful implementation of the plan. So to support the acceleration of pollutant reductions that must be achieved by 2025 and the capacity of our partners to do this work together, Cumberland County applied for and was awarded a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation Innovative Nutrient and Sediment Reduction Award, of which the work products identified in this scope of work and the RFP are a significant portion of the overall award. Securing willing landowners for BMP implementation is one crucial step towards improving our water quality. And this challenge will be overcome through enhanced capacity to facilitate our project development. I'm going to just provide a really high level overview right now of the phases that we have outlined in our scope of work. And actually, if I could share my screen, I might go ahead and do that. Yeah, oops. Apologize for this. A second here. There we go. So can everyone see the scope? Okay. Excellent. So the scope of work that we have outlined follows 4 basic phases that build upon each other. The first phase would be baseline data collection, and we anticipate this would take 3 to 6 months. And during this phase, tasks are going to be linked to developing a familiarity with the county's agricultural land preservation program database, its policies and procedures, a review of files and database points pertinent to conservation planning and implementation with respect to program requirements, and then also flagging information that is incomplete or needs to be updated. And you would also be reaching out to landowners to attain the needed information, and entering plans into Practice Keeper would be taking place during that phase. And we'll talk a little bit about Practice Keeper later. In the second phase, stewardship enhancement, the consultant would be working closely with staff to document resource concerns or needs they'd identified during phase 1. An analysis will take place to determine which technical assistance needs would be prioritized, and also a survey that addresses conservation planning and implementation needs of preserved farm landowners would be developed. Landowner visits will take place to identify prospects for projects and hear from the farmers directly what are the main obstacles to implementation of conservation practices. These challenges would then help inform the content for the group outreach or educational programs that would be developed. In the third phase is this addresses the performance of work identified in the previous 2 phases by lining up farmers with plan development and completing the plans. Field visits and follow-up contact with landowners will be necessary to make sure plans are reflective of current and intended future practices on the operation, and that the operator or landowner is cognizant of their role in implementing the plan. During this phase, we're going for a warm handoff so that landowners are very familiar with the elements of their plan, and we can build a successful partnership with them towards implementing projects that are identified in the plan. During the 4th phase, we are looking at prospective projects that are identified and cultivated during the previous phases. And they will move on to the inventory and evaluation stages in the preliminary design phase. In this grant, there is $225,000 available in this award for design and construction of best management practices. And we anticipate this may support the installation of 1 to 2 BMPs, depending on the type and scale. There is also there's existing and potential funding also available for the construction of additional BMPs that may be identified during this course of this project. And we expect that the county planning team will be briefed on any opportunities that the consultant sees to develop additional BMP project scopes. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie for some background information on the landowners that the consultant will be working on with this program.
All right. Excuse me. Thank you. So given the public investment that Cumberland County has already made in our preserved farms, we think we have an extra responsibility to help those landowners be better stewards of the land. And that's what this project is really all about. We manage a very successful farmland preservation program. We have about 200 easements covering almost 24,000 acres of farmland. And we have about 175 unique landowners that we work with through our farmland preservation program. There's a handful of landowners that actually have multiple farms in the program. And long-term, we have a goal to grow the program. Our goal is to preserve a total of 30,000 acres by the year 2030. Fortunately, we're well on our way to reaching that goal. But we do have some significant needs. As the program grows and ages, long-term stewardship can become more challenging. We have more landowners, more operators, and obviously more land in the program to deal with. Not only are we dealing with conservation planning needs and BMP needs, we're also dealing with requests for subdivision and new businesses and any number of different evolving issues that might occur on farms across the county. If you couple these challenges with limited staff resources, being proactive on conservation issues is becoming more difficult. So we're hoping with the help of the consultant that we can get a better handle on conservation planning element of the farmland preservation program, get our database and records more fully up to date, help build some relationships with farmers, facilitate new plans, and then, ultimate goal of getting some new practices on the ground. And if we can get that bulk of work done through consultant assistance, we hope that as staff, we can be more sustainable about keeping that activity going forward into the future. In sort of some previous questions that were asked of us in terms of what are the current conservation plan requirements and what do we currently do frequently came up. So I thought I would just hit that briefly. Under our current farmland preservation program guidelines, landowners are required to have a conservation plan at the time of application and to maintain one under the terms of the deed of easement. The language of the easement around a conservation plan is fairly brief in that it says a plan when implemented will improve and maintain the soil and water related plant and animal resources of the land. We are tracking those conservation plans in a database, and we also maintain paper copies of those plans. And in the next couple months, we're moving to digitize all those plans so they'll be more readily available for the consultant. We expect that to be done by the time we're ready to award a contract. So for the newer farms, our records are in pretty good shape, but for farms that have been in the program for a while or that have changed hands or have been subdivided, our records are less reliable. Our first farm dates back to 1992. So again, with the resources available, hope to bring all those records up to speed, start maintaining or reaching out to landowners and building some relationships that we can move towards more conservation BMPs on our farms. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Dylan, we had talked a little bit about Practice Keeper, and I know we did receive a question related to Practice Keeper. And I think it was related to what level of detail is required to enter plans and just, how does Practice Keeper function? And I don't know if you could provide a little background on that.
Yeah, so I will just have a brief overview of Practice Keeper. So what Practice Keeper is it's a database that conservation districts and the state use to keep record of agricultural activity. It can be used to extract data, which also includes the spatial data that can be placed into GIS. In my position, I enter nutrient management and manure management plans, as well as nutrient balance sheets into PK. And also that includes best management practices, or the BMPs. the best management practice and practice keeper, that can be not complicated, but there's a lot of detail that goes into that. So I'm just going to break it down into 4 different so-called tabs. There's a general, so that consists of, what is the BMP? Is it a waste storage tank or a grass waterway? There's a map tab that allows the BMP to be placed or drawn at or on location, so either the farmstead or in a field. There's participants tab, which is the farmer or operator. You got the planner, the designer, design reviewer, the design approver, and then the implementer. And then there's another tab, which is for funding sources. An example of that is CEG. Chaz, is there anything else that I missed or you want to touch base on?
I was going to say, for myself, I just put in inspections, but that's kind of a separate thing even there. So yeah, it's a lot of just putting in the information from the plan, and the thing that takes the most time is putting BMPs in and putting the maps in of the layout of the farm.
Thank you. Chaz, one other question. Can you just speak to maybe characterize some of the most frequent BMPs that we're looking at with funding, through CEG or some of our other funding sources?
Yeah, I've been putting a lot of, for the CEG program, I've been doing a lot of heavy use areas. So we just put those in along with, heavy use areas and stack pads. And then just waterways and that sort of thing just go in there. So you have to put those in the field where they're at. And then with each one of that, you kind of put in their timeline and whenever they're going to be completed. If they're not completed yet, how much are being implemented. So that's it. It is a little bit just to kind of get through it, but once you get the hang of it, it's much quicker. You can get through it pretty quickly.
Great, thanks. So it looks like we have a question in the chat, and I'll just read it out loud. Is the expectation that the consultant will also develop manure management plans and/or nutrient management plans for these farms as well? And our main focus is to make sure that the farms are meeting the minimum criteria for the agricultural land preservation program. So that would be the primary focus. So it would involve conservation plans and or ag E&S plans that were prepared by a certified plan writer. If the plan is determined to require manure management plans and or nutrient management plans as well, those plans would be also eligible under this funding. If anyone has anything to add, please feel free. Sorry, my light is kind of creeping in here. Okay, Adam, did that answer your question? If there's any follow-up, please let us know.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, I think at this point, it's just open to any other additional questions. I wanted to make sure everybody saw that I did add the link to where we're going to be posting a recording of this, as well as any updates to the frequently asked questions document. I'm gonna put that in the chat again, just in case anybody missed it. All right, well, I'm gonna just give a really quick overview of kind of next steps and the schedule. As you develop your proposals. Let me just go ahead and put that up really quickly again. Let's see. Okay, oops. Apologize. Oops, that was not what I intended to do. Sorry. Let me just close that out. There we go. Okay, so as you consider our overview today and also reviewing the request for proposals, please submit any additional questions you have as soon as possible. You can submit those to Stephanie Williams, sjwilliams@ccpa.net, or myself, Elizabeth Grant, egrant@ccpa.net. We will be making an update to frequently asked questions document, and that would be posted by next Wednesday. Your proposals are due by February 25th at 4 p.m. Please try to get those in as early as possible so we can review and let you know if that we've received them and that they are complete. The committee will meet and review all of the proposals submitted. We will conduct interviews early March, and we will make our selection by mid-March. And we'll present that to the commissioners, and we expect that upon review, a notice to proceed will be issued by April 18th. All right, well, are there any other questions?
Elizabeth, it's Kristen Hoke. So quick question. So for the inventory of the, like the phase 1 is inventorying all the existing plans. So that would be the 200 easements and associated plans, correct?
Yes, Stephanie, do you want to take that one?
Yes, sure. Yes, you're correct, Kristen.
So do you have an anticipated number of plans that you think might need updated, or is there a certain number of plans that you're hoping to accomplish with this funding?
So we have $50,000 available under the grant program. And we anticipate with that amount of funding, we can probably do 20 to 25 plans. I anticipate that the actual need for plans will exceed the budget that we have available. So the goal would be to inventory what plans we think need update, prioritize them, and then hit the high priority ones first.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. Okay, we have another question. We mentioned that we have 225,000. Is this from a different grant? And is it specifically for building the BMPs? So to respond to that, the $225,000 for construction and design, that is in this National Fish and Wildlife Federation or Foundation grant. It is included in our overall scope for the grant. So, and it would be specifically for building BMPs that we anticipate being identified to address resource needs through the scope of work prepared under this contract. So the idea is that we're building a workflow of identifying needs, developing plans to address those needs, and then identifying BMPs for implementation. All right, is there any follow-up to that? Okay, well, thank you for your question, Melissa. Okay, so hearing no additional questions right at this moment, I'll just turn it to the team if you have any last things you'd like to share. And otherwise we'll move on. Anything? All right, well, thank you all for your time.
Here.
I really appreciate you spending some time with us and considering submitting a proposal. Again, please feel free to reach out to us anytime through email. I'm just going to drop our email addresses in here so you have those directly as well. All right, well, thank you all, and hopefully we'll have the recording posted as soon as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you.